Welcome everybody to another episode of Life on Mars, the MarsBased podcast. I'm Àlex, CEO and founder of MarsBased, and in this episode we're going to be reusing another event from Startup Grind Barcelona, another technical event that we hosted back in the day when we had as our guest Elisenda Bou, CTO and co-founder of Vilynx, a company mixing artificial intelligence and machine learning to tag and categorize video. They are based in Barcelona, they're half Barcelonan, they're half American. They had to struggle with this in the beginning. They also struggled with the idea of creating a technology that didn't have necessarily a problem to solve back then. They struggled attracting data engineers back in the day and finding the right technologies to work and finding the right perks, so how to communicate that they were hiring. However, this company ended up being bought by Apple. So all of these struggles didn't end up in vain. We talked also a lot about being different kinds of CTO, what kind of CTO is Elisenda, and she was mentioning many times during the interview that she micromanages. She played herself low, but one of the reasons that we wanted to recover this interview is because we are going to host her again in this podcast. We wanted to provide a little bit of context as to what kind of company they were a couple of years back and what kind of company they are now. So I hope that you enjoy this episode and we will prepare for our upcoming interview with Elisenda Bou. Let's jump right into it.
So please, if we can have the music, because we're going to welcome Elisenda like a true rock star. All right, so at the count of three, we'll all stand up and give the warmest rock star applause for Elisenda. 1, 2, 3, give it up, stand up. All right, not bad. How many times have you been welcomed on stage as a rock star?
No, but I thought I was getting paid.
You're gonna? Well, yeah. I mean, it's got a lot of great people. Thank you for that. That's probably the biggest, warmest, and the best welcome we can give to our speakers. I'm gonna introduce her briefly. So she's the CTO and co-founder of Vilynx, an AI company that basically just analyzes videos and is trying to make a more competitive landscape, and so that not all the video processing is owned by Amazon or Netflix. They have the AI brain, or they call it like that. They created the company in the US because she had been at the MIT. She had been living in the US for many years. She decided to come back to Barcelona. That's one of the main topics we're going to be talking about. So big applause again for Elisenda, because a lot of people create companies here and they expand there to the US, but you did it the other way around. Can you explain that story?
Okay. First was a bit different. I think my co-founder, Juan Carlos Ribeiro, also CEO of the company, he had already created one company, and it was already between Taipei, Edinburgh, Valencia, and the US. So he was very used to having like a lot of different sites for teams and managing all this craziness. And for me, I had been studying abroad, and I remember that feeling that when we were like a bunch of expats there living in Boston, and we would meet every week to tell each other stories about. Basically, like, we're always happy, but we ended up always telling ourselves like all the things that we missed about Spain and Barcelona, and all the this feeling that we had all like we're sharing something, but we were not here, right? So I remember those dinners, and we were always kind of sad, and we were all thinking, okay, so what are we gonna do next? Once we finish our studies, where are we gonna work? Because the only options at that moment were like, you have to be working in Palo Alto for Google or for any of these big techs. And we were all thinking that, okay, so the only possible option for a career right now is to end up with the PhDs and then go to work for one of these big technological companies or even a startup, but do it in US. And I thought, I wish there were like different opportunities where I live too, because I know I've been very close with the university. I know there is great talent. I know it's a great place to live, and I have always wanted to live here. So when my co-founder and I met, we kind of decided that he would be staying in US, I would be moving to Barcelona, and then we'd have like the engineering team here, and then sales and marketing out there.
So the company has raised some funding, and how did the investors take the thing that you were creating a company there but expanding here? Did they see anything wrong there? Because usually most investors in the US, they would just tell you to keep the company there, right? How was that greeted by the investors?
Okay, so at the beginning there was no expansion because you were like two developers or two founders, just crazy from your own home. So who is an investor going to tell you like, are you living in Barcelona or where are you living? So at the beginning, you do whatever you want. Then when we're expanding, it's kind of worst case scenario in both situations, but it actually works out. So for Spanish VCs, it is so at the beginning for Spanish VCs, it was very difficult to accept that we had people in US and people in Spain because of course, like when you're doing a seed round, there are certain levels of expenses, like having engineers or having anyone in US, it's way more expensive than here. So for Spanish VC funds, sometimes this was more difficult. On the other hand, for US funds, having a team in Barcelona sometimes looked like, oh, you have an offshore development team there.
Yeah.
And it didn't look great.
Bit shady, yeah.
But I think there are, lately we have seen a lot of success in companies that have this diversification, because what's going on actually is that United States is very big, but Silicon Valley is not that big. And we're seeing very deep big technological companies moving there. And it's getting super difficult to get good engineering, good traction, to get good projects in Silicon Valley. Because there's so much demand and there are so many startups that it's almost impossible to get good developers. So I think the Israeli model has helped a lot in this sense. And I think that lately we are seeing a lot of startups that have had a lot of success by having the sales team in one place and then the engineering team in another one. And this has actually worked very, very good in our favor. In our case, we do artificial intelligence and machine learning. And finding this, I don't know if you have seen, there is this comic strip about, I think it's about a person that's on an island by himself, and he's putting stones in the beach, and he's saying, "Help, SOS, something." And you see the planes are flying by, and then he thinks about he spends 5 minutes thinking, and he says, "I am a machine learning engineer," and then planes just land directly to hire him. So the problem right now that we have is
that's XKCD. The
webcomic,
yeah, sounds like it, yeah.
So what happens here is that talent on machine learning and AI, it's extremely difficult to get if you are in US. However, if you are in Europe, there are not so many companies, or even in Spain, there are not so many companies that are big tech AI. So you can attract a lot of talent that's sitting here and looking for amazing places to work and amazing projects to work on. So for us, the fact that we're located here helped us a lot to get a lot of talent and attraction from Europe and Spain that I guess otherwise they might have had to go to US to work on these kind of big AI projects.
Let's give the audience a full picture. So what is exactly that you do? How did you come up with the model? And was it the right idea from the very beginning, or did you iterate a lot of times to get the perfect product?
We are a very technological company, and this is good and bad. So we started working on a problem that we wanted to work on. So everybody's going to tell you this is a completely bad idea. You never want to do that. You want to look for the specific problem that somebody has, then you look for product market fit, then you do all the work, and then you decide how you're going to solve the problem. We just were a couple of geeks that wanted to make machines learn and live on the dream of AGI or AGI. So we were just geeks working on whatever we wanted to. And so we did it the other way around. So it was kind of difficult at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because when we had the seed round was mostly because they were putting money on this group of crazy people, and they're building this. So at some point they will figure out what they're gonna do with that technology that they're building. So it was technology first, product
or team
later.
first. right? They invested in the team as well.
Yeah, so the business invested in the team, but for us it was like technology first, then we'll see what we do with that, which is not optimal. No. And then in the meantime, of course, like you've seen, there is so many, there have been many AI startups that also started technology first, we see what we do later. And many of them happen to burn lots of money and have had different levels of success. I'm going to put it like that. And so for us, we wanted to be like technology first, product is going to come later. But we're also Spanish kind of a startup, and our VCs were not like deep pockets in US. They did not have deep pockets in US. So we had to make it work in the meantime, like get something, like sell something in the meantime while you're building this technology that you want to build. So it was kind of a nightmare of product, what we sell, what are we doing, how we can reuse what we're building for this purpose that we want, and how we can sell it in the meantime so we can get some extra revenue. So VCs are not going to kill us.
When was the moment when you said, like, well, we've got it now. We nailed it. After squandering so many millions from our VCs, now we got it.
Yeah,
when was that moment?
We never saw that moment, I think.
All right, not yet.
Yeah, no.
Right.
So for us, like, if you ask us, like, we would be just developing technology forever. I don't mind. I just want to, I mean, we have a good path to do, like, technology, and we would have never said that. But then I think there was one day, we had one of our VCs. Actually, what happened is that they came to JC and they said, okay, so now that you have done that, now you stop and you build an actual company. You have to stop this mode. Like you have reached this, like stop playing and build a company, please. And so we had to do it.
All right.
It's not that we wanted to. We're having a lot of fun about it.
That means that you were forced to actually make money and stop playing with your AI toys?
Yeah.
All right. And how did the team take that?
It was fine. I think because mostly affected the CEO.
All right.
Because the engineering team, they keep playing. We always play. That's our job.
That's good. So seems like you're having fun.
The CEO had the worst part. He had to actually like
sell things.
Leave engineering and work on doing like real things. And that's what happened, I guess.
We're not going to talk about sales because we're like, it's not very often that we have CTOs, right? So let's dig a little bit deeper into technology. And I wanted to ask, in this process of not selling, because I assume there was a huge part of the company's first years that you didn't sell, you didn't have any income. So did you see any moment when it was dangerous for the company, and did you have to struggle to survive, or there was always like some, more VC funding to come? How did you get extra revenue? How did you bootstrap it? It's a long question, huh?
Yeah. It depends on what you consider like. So if I have a team, what I'm mostly afraid of is about the jobs that I'm opening and what happens if like I don't raise VC money. My problem is not for myself. I don't care that much. It's for the rest of the team. Like they're gonna have good job offers. We're gonna be able to relocate them. What is gonna happen with them? At the beginning, since we're just like crazy friends doing stuff that we liked, and maybe we would have done it even without getting paid. In fact, we did not get paid for a while. And so we wouldn't care. It's like we were playing and we were just having fun. And as long as we could survive, that was okay for us. So there was no real like danger in that situation. It is way more dangerous when you have like 40, 50 people on the team and then you're like running out of money, and that's a different problem. Mm-hmm. So when you're small, everything is kind of okay.
But you're not that small anymore.
No, I mean, when you're bigger, then yes, then you feel more the pressure. But also it depends on what kind of company you have. Because there are different, when you're small, if you don't raise money, if you just keep small, so when you're very, very small, it doesn't matter. When you're mid-size, then it matters. Because maybe you don't get acquired because you're too small to get acquired, and maybe you're not having enough like market traction to be able to raise the money that you need to raise to keep surviving. So that's the problem. After you've grown a little bit more, then even if it was the case that you were not able to raise money, once you have built a good technology team, and if your company is really technological, you get a lot of offers for acquisition of the team. because it's not that easy to create a 40, 50 people ML AI team. And so at some moment you get acquired. So the risk is not that high because, even if I don't get to raise the money, I could sell the company. And my teammates, they will not run out of jobs.
Yeah.
So the risk is different too.
The risk is different. So how many people are you now, and what's the distribution of the roles in the team? So how many engineers have you got? Where are the roles in the company?
So we're very, very biased, and it's very uncommon. I think we are 70% of us are engineers.
Right.
So it's mostly an engineering company. We have very little sales, marketing, and all that. And regarding the engineering team, I'd say maybe 80% or more it's machine learning AI.
Wow.
And then we have some front end and some back end.
How did you find them? Because you mentioned that some companies rescue people from islands and they're just lonely there. But there's a lot of companies who actually hire people who just got not even a formal degree, but a boot camp, right? They're just doing this boot camps and they have 3 weeks course, 6 weeks intensive course. And companies are so desperate that they just hire these people because they think, I'm going to hire 10. If 3 work out, it's going to compensate. How do you do this? How is your talent acquisition strategy?
It depends. It depends on whether how quick you want to grow, and if you can spend time into how much time you can spend on finding right talent, and not only finding, but also figuring out which ones works and which ones and who doesn't. In our case, we were always very, very selective about who came into the company. We had 2 rules. The interviewing process has only 2 ways.
Right.
You either get a normal way, which is the team looks at your CV, then you go through the technical interview, then you do the team interview, and then you do a final one, which is regular. Or anybody in the team can directly point at somebody that they know and be like, I want this person to join the team. There are no questions asked. The guy just gets in, and it's the responsibility,
really?
Yes,
wow.
of the person who has pointed. That worked really well for us.
All right. Because they go the extra mile, right? If you're working with a friend, if you've been recommended, no questions asked.
You feel responsible for him.
Exactly.
Very much responsible. So when somebody,
a lot of pressure.
Yeah, because when somebody points someone else to join, they take care of that person, fitting within the company, doing what he's expected to do. Because if he's not going to be performing well, then he puts the other guy in a difficult position. So that kind of recommendation system worked very, very well for us at the beginning when it was key for us to find the right teammates.
Do you also give incentives, economic incentives to people recommending other potential hires, or just purely the joy of working with a friend?
I mean, what better joy you could have than having a team, your friend joining the best team there is? I mean, of course, if you feel part of a community, then you want your friends and the people you like to be joining that community. If you like working, we want people to like to work in our company.
Yeah.
So if they like working in my company, then they're going to be recommending it to their friends, which is normal. And then that's it.
All right. What happens when it doesn't work? Because, in our company, we don't have this policy, but obviously if somebody recommends somebody, we're going to look at him or her with different eyes, right? We're going to be biased, and it's okay, he's recommending him or her, whatever, it's going to work, they're going to be putting an extra effort and all of that. But once it didn't happen, it just didn't work at all.
It has never happened.
How's that been for you?
It has never happened that a direct recommendation has not worked in my company.
You're very lucky.
It has never, a direct recommendation for a team member, no.
Hope that doesn't happen. All right, so
sometimes in the regular path, yes, sometimes it happens that you, sometimes it's very, very difficult to evaluate somebody in an interview, and then you do 3 interviews. It's I share with you, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then I know if you're going to be a good fit for the company. That is really difficult bet. In fact, one of my problems is that sometimes I fear all the good people that we have left, that we said no. Because you never know, because usually it's I have this kind of feeling and I don't know for sure, and then you decide not to risk it and say no to the person, but you always kind of question yourself, what, maybe he would have been a good candidate for us.
Let's talk a little bit about you and the CTO role, because as I said, we don't have CTOs here very often, most of all because they have no social skills whatsoever, which is clearly not your case, right? But and the second is because they're always putting out fires, right? You just jumped into a call 10 minutes ago, an emergency call, right? And that happens. And CTO in our company is always putting out fires. So you think a CTO is having fun because they test new frameworks, they select new technologies, and they're just like trying React Native and whatever, and like, no. They're just putting out fires every day. How's it being a CTO?
It's exactly that.
Okay, Alex.
You just try to like, work. It's a bit strange because like most of the time, so I'm not very social, and I've never liked talking to people that much.
Oh, you're talking to 150 people. That's very good.
But they don't talk to me, so it's okay. They don't talk too much.
They're not real.
No, but what I meant is that I didn't like a lot like the social interactions, and then I was like, okay, so then I'll go directly to the technical role because it really fits me. You work with a computer. It's most of the time. You don't have to talk to people that often. It's fine. It's gonna be fine. And then you end up being CTO, and 80% of my time, I'm like not even like fixing fires, but I'm fixing fires between people. Yeah. Like most of our problems, like most of all the problems are miscommunication issues. You're figuring out, so somebody had this problem, how I'm gonna mentor this person into doing that, how I'm gonna. I spent my whole time, like I'd say almost my whole time dealing with people, which was not intended either.
But it's because you're scaling the company, and then as you grow up, you have to acquire more management and social skills, right? I assume there are two types of CTO, more like a sort of VP engineering, like that they want to be hands-on, they still code, even if the company is 100 people strong, something like that, and more like political CTOs that deal with this kind of communication, more like management, even sometimes they do sales, or help with I wouldn't say with fundraising, but some other, with relationships even. So which kind are you, more or less? Would be more like hands-on on the technical side?
I think you do everything. So I have the feeling that unless you win the respect of, well, first, I'm a micromanager. So I'm going to put it out there. I micromanage, I know my issues. It's not good for the hiring. I'm working on them, it's okay. I accept them. So I micromanage. So this means I have to be involved, I review everything, I put a lot of attention to detail. I'm a pain. So I still get hands-on, but there is no way you cannot deal with the social part. At least for me, in order to nurture a team and to make it grow and to make it evolve into what you're envisioning, there are going to be problems and you have to fix them.
So you still care about the people? Because you could say like, fuck this. I'm just taking care of the code. But you show that you're caring.
I love my team. I'm super protective of my team.
You don't like other people, but you love your team.
Yes, of course. I love my team. I have to protect them. I have to fight for them. It's all about the team. But you don't get to it's like you put so much effort into building a great team, and you're so proud of your team that it's not like you're going to let it blow by itself. You're going to put all the effort you can into making sure that there are no fires in production as well as no fires in the team. Otherwise, both things break and it doesn't work.
How about, because this thing about the micromanaging, that's very interesting, because I, as a founder, I feel it that, as you scale, a lot of tasks that you got to do, it grows in diversity and in quantity. Some of them, at a certain point, you have to let go. You're micromanaging because you're not able to let go, or is it a choice? You want to micromanage?
No, it's not a choice. I get criticized for that.
Is it because you're learning, right? Yeah.
So I think my personality it's a personality that I focus on the small details. I'm very detail oriented. I'm like this. So what happens is that I micromanage by default. If I don't control myself, I micromanage. But also I have to say that I don't have to. So it's like I have team leads that they handle almost everything for me. So when I micromanage, it's because of my own incapacity to just let it go sometimes. When I started working when we started working in Vilynx, I remember one of the first things that my co-founder said was like, Ellie, you micromanage so much, there is no way we're gonna scale. And we said, okay, so when I have so many tasks to micromanage that I will not be having the possible time to do them all, then I'm gonna prioritize some of them. But until I've reached that limit that I have no sleep and I cannot do everything, I will keep micromanaging.
All right. Have you reached that limit?
Yeah. Once I reach the limit, like I'm not getting sleep, then some of the things like just go.
How did you do it? So which ones did you delegate? Which ones did you outsource? Or which ones did you eliminate altogether? How do you do it? Because everybody has got a different style.
I don't know. I think it's always like, when you're a manager, you have to think about, like, every day you see it and you think, okay, so how can I manage better? What are the things that I do wrong and how can I improve them? I put a lot of effort into stopping, like, I'm joking all the time, but I put a lot of effort into trying to avoid micromanaging people. And I really rely a lot on the team leads that we have to take the responsibility. So they take a lot of the responsibility out of me, and they take care of almost everything. Sometimes I feel like I am only like kind of the cheerleader of the team. I have the feeling that I go to the office and I'm cheerleading everyone, just like, this is the vision, cheerlead something, and then it gets done. So it's not that I really have to micromanage, because they are great. So sometimes I think it's most about, what I tend to do is you give them the responsibility and you're confident that they're gonna come and ask you the questions that are gonna be relevant enough for you. So they cannot be asking me all the time, all the questions they have, but I have to rely on them that whenever they reach a question that's important enough to be raised to me, then they're gonna do that step. And that's what actually has been more difficult for me. So figuring out, okay, so how I can tell somebody that these are the questions that should be passed to me, and these are the questions that you can rely on your own. And I'm not the one to take the decision because all the questions are different. So they have to think about what they're being asked and figure out what needs to be passed to or discussed more, and what is just okay, and they can just take the decision.
So you on the one hand, you micromanage. On the other hand, you push the people, you cheer them up because you think you would fight to the death for them because you really care about your team. What's your management style overall? So in terms of communication, how are you as a manager? How would you describe yourself?
I have no idea.
Oh, you have no idea. Can we ask somebody from your team? Is there anybody from Vilynx here? Because I think there were like somebody coming. Maybe.
Yeah, there might be there.
Oh, they're working, right? Yeah.
No. A couple of them are there, but they're not.
They're just shy. They're just shy. Now, because
So,
one of the things is, oh, sorry, you were going to say something.
So, no. I was just going to say that sometimes, like, we have this little game, and maybe it defines a bit how I manage. So when somebody joins a company, we try to do like a dinner or a celebration that somebody new is coming, and then when they come, we do one thing. So they have to share with the team two different things. One is like they have to share a story in which they have to share a story that they are ashamed, they're ashamed of. So they share a personal story that like, this is like one of the worst times of my life. I'm very ashamed of this, and then they share this with the company. And then the second part is they share the special capabilities that's unique to them, and they're also sharing with the team. So everyone has like these things that they are really afraid of sharing, that they are really like, they feel like really weird about sharing. And they also know by themselves what is the unique capability that makes you special and that you are adding to this team. So sometimes we've had like really different set of skills, like very weird. But I kind of think that my management style is, I try to find out what people feel most uncomfortable with, and also what people sometimes feel like mostly proud of, or they think it's their uniqueness. And I just try to find the right place. It's like doing Legos all the time. So you just find the right place for everyone that matches the two things that they have, like the ones that they're ashamed of and the ones that they like.
We're going to be talking about your superpowers later, but so what's the story that you're most ashamed of? I mean, I assume you share it with your team, right?
Yeah, but that's different.
They are your team. They might be your team.
Okay.
A lot of people from tonight, they will apply for a position at your company because they're hiring.
They have. I mean, my team knows a lot of them, but like, okay, so one of them is I've been to the hospital 3 times. The 3 times for the same reason, different times of my life, and the reason was eating too much popcorn.
I would feel proud about that, actually, but
I don't know.
I guess it's me. So how hands-on are you on the hiring? Let's talk about the hiring, because a lot of CTOs, they are really, really anal about hiring the right people, and I guess that's good because developers are hard to find, but some of them, they completely delegate that to somebody in the team, to HR person, or even to an external company. So how involved do you get in the hiring process? Do you do the interviews yourself?
I usually go in one of the interviews at least. So sometimes the team.
Yeah. Then when that happens, it's a timer. Sorry about this. The fuck happened? All right. Can we just? Anyways, let's go like that. We're gonna have to. No. Let's see. ¿Puedes poner la pantalla, por favor? All right, yeah, that's good. I always have something happening with my laptop. It's kind of like a thing at our events.
Okay.
Sorry, you were saying like that you go into an interview yourself.
Yeah, it depends. So we have these 2 different like strategies for hiring. If it's recommended by somebody from the team, I cannot ask any question. He just decides the day that he's arriving, and that's it. We just have the laptop prepared for that person. If it's the regular interviewing process, I try to go at least once.
How do you keep the expectations aligned with developers? Because nowadays developers, they change a lot of, they change jobs very frequently. What actions do you do as a company to not retain them? Retain is a very strong word, but to maintain your team. So you host events because you host the TensorFlow meetups in your company. Then what other perks do you do? What other activities do you do to create a good team vibe?
Yeah, I've had very long discussions about perks. We're not a perks company.
You're more like product, right?
Basically, we might have perks, but we don't put them in job offers.
Oh, that's great.
We don't want people to join for perks. I mean, we want to treat our people nicely because they're our friends, and I would die for them. But basically, we don't hire based on perks. So we don't promote our perks. We don't tell anyone about the perks until you join. That's important for us. I remember one day I was having a conversation with a recruiter, and I was telling him, he was asking me, what do you offer? And I said, competitive salary, even though we're a startup, so not huge. And it's like, okay, which perks? No perks. Okay, so what do you have to offer? I'm like, nice project. Isn't that what everyone wants to work on?
Exactly.
So we try to hire people who believe in our project and who share our vision. So we don't want people who come for perks or for salary because that helps you recruiting short term, but it doesn't help you long term.
Exactly. Look what happened to WeWork. Perks are gone. They're cutting down on the alcohol.
Well, they have other problems.
Yeah, they have a lot of problems.
Not
Yeah.
gonna.
Anyways.
So for us, it's like we don't want to show off perks. We don't talk about if we do an offsite or not. We try to keep this kind of private. We want people that really wants to do breakthroughs on state-of-the-art on AI and machine learning. If you're not crazy about that, it's not going to work in the long term because all coffee breaks we talk about this. We spend all like lunch breaks talking about this. We spend dinners talking about this. Sometimes it's like 12 in the office and nobody has had dinner and we're still talking about something. So we care a lot about what we do, and we want people who cares as much as us. So our hiring process, it's a bit different, I guess.
No, that's great because I mean, one of the problems that we've got when an ecosystem is mature, is solid, like we're having now in Barcelona, but it's been the case, like in London, it's been for many years, in the US, it's been for many years, is that once everybody has got a lot of money and there's a new startup coming up every week, then they just, all the developers leave from, I don't know, from freaking Typeform to Globo to whatever, right? To the next company, because it's the cool thing. And they have more money, they pay bigger salaries, and they have better perks. So clearly there are two types of developers. The ones that they want to have their ping pong table and the snacks and the free beer on Thursday and Friday, and the ones who are good developers, right? And they just care about things. And by having this tribe of AI-focused people, I think that's ingrained in your company culture, right? How would you describe your company culture at Vilynx?
It's a bit weird. Basically, it's weird. So...
Is it weird because it's a bunch of nerds working
on AI? It's mostly nerds.
Great.
It's mostly nerds working on AI, talking about AI, discussing about AI. Sometimes we eat, but we code all the time. Either you like it or not, I don't know.
I mean, you come from research, from the university, so how much have you brought from that, from the things you learned there, from that environment into the company?
In that sense, like my co-founders, JC and I, we have very, very different views. So he's more like the enterprise, like he would be like the enterprise edition software, and I would be like the research open source free software for everyone. So we have different views of things.
How does that combine?
We argue a lot.
all right. Let's talk about that.
But basically, so he's more like pattern oriented, and he likes to work on trade secrets and IP and all that stuff. And I'm more like research oriented. We go to conferences, we attend them, we present papers, we want to improve state of art. So it's very different profiles. So I think between the two, we sometimes argue and we get to something that makes sense for the company. So
you're two co-founders, as I think.
Yes.
That creates a lot of times a 50-50, right? You're one person against the other, and there's that.
He wins. He's more stubborn.
He always wins. Okay, no, so that's how you resolve the conversations? Oh, right, no. How do you do it? Because we don't very often talk about arguing with co-founders. I mean, it can be for a good thing and not necessarily for a really bad thing. But like strategy, for instance, or fundraising. When's the good time? Well, we need to hire more people. No, we're not selling enough. How do you resolve these things usually?
We argue, but sometimes I have the feeling that arguing has a very bad connotation. And arguing doesn't mean bad, sometimes means that you care.
Yeah.
And we were both people very, very passionate about what we were doing. And so once you're passionate about what you're doing, you also become passionate about your ideas. And it's very easy to argue about what you think is best, because at the end, we always want what we think is best for the company, just as sometimes we have different views. He's the CEO, so he has final decision on a lot of things.
So it's kind of like one level above you in that sense. Like you're
but I think we have a lot of arguments, and we always find middle ground.
All right. I wanted to go back, circle back a little bit to why to expand to Barcelona, because a couple of people from the audience asked me, can you ask the reason why? And you said, okay, it's because we wanted to go back there. But the first reason that one can come up with is budget. It's cheaper. Everybody moves to Barcelona because it's cheaper. How that affect your decision as well, or that was not part of the plan?
At that moment, it didn't affect because we're not thinking that far away. In retrospect, yes, it is cheaper. But I go back to the same thing. So it's about who you're competing with when you're attracting talent. So in Silicon Valley, I would be competing against 1,000 different cool projects on AI. In Europe, there are not that many.
Yeah.
So it's not about the salary or if it's expensive or not. It's about you want those developers that are 1 out of 1,000, the very good ones, the very, very, very good ones. And if you have to share with a very big community of startups that they do deep AI, it's going to be very difficult. But in our case, since we're here, there are not that many. So we get a lot of people coming from Europe. We get a lot of people from Spain that are they really care about AI and they want to do big AI projects. So they come to us because there are not so many startups that we compete with.
coming from a company that was based in the Valley and expanding to here, you must have very, very different visions because the rhythm there, the pace there is so frenetic. It's really intense all the time. Whereas here is a little bit more, chill. How do people take it? How many people you got there, and how is it? Is it easy to manage? Because JC is based there, if I remember correctly, right? How do you balance that in the company? The fact that one of the co-founders is in the US, so 9 hours, 10 hours difference, and probably having another rhythm that you've got here in Barcelona.
I wouldn't say that here the rhythm is less, I think, usually I tend to think that Palo Alto or Silicon Valley, they have very good working hours.
Yeah.
Because
I'm just not meaning that. They're just kind of more business-oriented. They tend to take decisions very fast. Whereas here, we're more like, I'll postpone this decision to next month.
No, that doesn't happen.
Okay, doesn't happen in your company.
I don't think that. I don't think that happens to us. We're really quick at taking decisions. I don't think we have a different pace. I think most of the problems are mostly how do you organize, because we have also people in Taipei. So sometimes finding the right meeting time when you have US, Barcelona, and Taipei, it's just impossible. It doesn't work. Somebody has to be in a call at 1 a.m. or 2. But apart from that.
Right. A bit of quick questions before we open up the floor for other people's questions. What has been your worst day at the office as a founder?
I think.
We like to open up here.
Worst day at the office.
Something you really struggled with, and you took a terrible decision, or.
Sometimes, it's not exactly the question you asked, but one of my biggest problems is when somebody from the team, people that you respect a lot and they're team leads and you rely on them a lot, they come to you and they look at you like you have all the answers.
Yeah.
They look at you like, I'm gonna ask you, I don't know, what's the future, what we're gonna be doing in 1 year or 2 years. And they're looking at you like you must have all the answers, right? But you don't have them. Most of the time it's you're taking guesses as educated as you can, and you're sharing with the team, and you're open for ideas, so maybe that's the path, but maybe it isn't. So one of the moments that I struggle mostly with is when people look at you and they're expecting you to have the right, perfect answer for any single problem that there might be, And they're like, I'm just trying to lead this thing, but...
We're a startup just trying to figure out every day.
I don't have the perfect solution for everything, so we're going to just keep figuring out as we go.
Yeah. But you have a vision in 1 year, maybe not in 5 years, because I think that's bullshit in my personal opinion, but the next 12 months, something like that. What's your vision for the company?
Of course. You always have a vision for 1 year, you have a 3-year plan, you have a 5-year plan that nobody believes in.
No, yeah.
You have all these things because you need to have them.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's still your plan.
Yeah.
So I might have a plan for the next 1 year, yes. And it might occur or it might not, because I don't control the world. I don't control that, I don't know, the sales cycle is not gonna, I don't control if it's gonna be dropping to half the time or not. I don't control it. So there are many things that I don't have access to. So you plan the best you can, but that doesn't mean you have a certainty of 100% that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you just go and play with it and see where it takes you. And one of the things that I struggle mostly with is when people, or maybe sometimes even VCs, they look at you and they're like, give me your 3-year plan. I'm like, okay, so I have plan A, B, C, D, and I don't even know which one is going to happen. It depends. So sometimes
you've got them, yeah?
Yeah, you've got them, but a plan means nothing. Like we always say that paper stands everything. Yeah. You can write whatever you want on paper. You can have any plan you want, but that doesn't mean it's going to get real. Mm-hmm. So you plan 4 different ones, and you think that you're going to be adapting, but you don't have all the answers.
Plans are useless. Planning is essential. They say, what's your most expensive fuck up? The thing you have lost more money with. In the company.
There have been some misunderstandings.
Mistakes were made?
Yeah. I think once we had kind of this. I'm not gonna say a company, but we were sponsored by one very important company, and they said, we're giving you free access to this cloud that we have. So it's one of the ones that have clouds.
Yeah.
You can use as many machines as you want. And again, I have a bunch of nerds and geeks playing and having a lot of stuff.
How many hundreds did you use?
So as many as we could. And then in 3 days,
Amazon was down.
they kicked us out, and we said we had burned the whole budget they had for startups in 3 years.
What did you compute there? Like, what were you using that for? We're trying to calculate like the projection of the universe. And
Nobody stated a limit, so
No, yeah.
we assumed that they would limit us at some point. And everything happened like really quick. Like in 24 hours, we had already fucked up. So it's not like we had a lot of time to react. We're
Right.
like, we're just gonna leave this training, and then we'll see how it's gonna go in the morning, and then you go in the morning after, and boom,
Boom. Mistakes
damage
were
is
made.
already done.
It's not their fault. It's their fault. You mentioned that you were learning some things about management and talking to people, and I assume that you might have read some books that you want to recommend to the audience, because we don't get a lot of book recommendation. But
I have not.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
In AI, maybe.
Oh, in AI.
A lot of people are here and they're like, what is AI, right? Like me.
It's really, really difficult to recommend AI books.
All right. For non-technical people, I assume.
So management books, I don't read them. I don't read them. I tried twice. I didn't succeed. I couldn't.
They're boring.
Well, so
them
there are
are-
two types. So
Yeah.
there are the ones that I don't understand,
All right.
and there are the ones that just state obvious things over and over, and you're like, I mean, that's common sense.
But do they say common things because you have already done them? Because you're some years into your management career?
I don't need to read a book that says delegate. I know I have to delegate.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
So sometimes it's like,
What kind
okay.
of books are you reading? Yeah.
I don't know. And then I'm sure there are good ones. But I mean, you can read OKRs, and you can read all these management styles, and you can read I read a bit about how to organize teams,
All right.
how you can organize teams that work well together. But I don't think that there is a solution that works for everyone. So I've seen like OKRs. I've seen them greatly implemented, poorly implemented. I've seen people having great success. I've seen the worst things that have been done under the OKR management style. And the same thing happens for squads, for a lot of things. Like everything can go well and everything can go wrong. And at the end is, what is the best thing that's going to work for your team? And you don't know until you talk to them and you try and you figure out stuff as you go. In our case, like what really worked well for me is that the team is divided in 5 big teams. And each of them has 2 team leads. So it's a democracy. So whenever a decision has to be taken, it's my vote against their 2 votes, so they can win any battle they want against me.
All right. Kind of like your co-founder. Yeah.
Yeah, but we are 50-50, and in that case, like the team leads can plan together, and they can win me at any single decision they want. So that really helped us. But I think it depends on the team and the kind of people you have. I mean, maybe I have experience in management, because most of the management books, they don't care that much whether you're managing an engineering team or a sales team or a product team. And they have nothing.
Nothing applicable, maybe.
Yeah, they have nothing like that's applicable to your sales team that you can apply to the engineering team. They don't answer the same way. You can ask them. I mean, I can give like a handbook manual to my engineering team. They're not going to read it. Yeah. And maybe the sales team, they're going to follow it like every single step. And if they don't have the playbook, then it's a big deal. But the engineers, they don't want you to. So I don't know. I don't know the recipe that works for everyone. So you just try.
Last question from me. we've talked about the thing that you're ashamed of, but let's talk about your superpowers. So, but not normal superpowers. At Startup Grind, we wrap up our interviews with asking about the useless superpower. Everybody has got a useless superpower, which is something you do every day, a lot of times, works exceptionally well, but it's freaking useless.
Can I get an example?
Yeah, for instance, like I know a lot of songs that I've never listened to actively, just because I retain them from radios and stuff, but they are not my style. But I don't know the lyrics to the songs I love. That's a pretty useless one.
Okay.
Our last guest said, I can play yo-yo very well. That's pretty useless as well.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, having like the popcorn thing would have been a great one. But you have used that card. You got to come up with something else.
Let me think. Oh, I'm pretty obsessed with plants.
With?
With plants. So I have this map of when you can get seeds from any single tree here in Barcelona. So I store like when the different seeds they get seeds, so you can retrieve them and then plant them. So I have this really crazy map that I've been building for like maybe 10 years. So every time that I find a seed, I'm like, oh, this one I don't have, so I'm gonna put it in my map. I'm gonna take note. This like happens in February, so next year I know where to come, and so that's my useless thing.
Someday this is going to be worth millions. In the meantime, it's pretty useless, and that's a very good answer. So please give it up for Elisenda.